accustomed to the fact that I could do that, and I wanted something more. I had spent all this time on this piece of metal that then I couldn't touch without leaving fingerprints, and somehow it wasn't answering. While I was studying the metalsmithing, I was taking printmaking and drawing and building up complex surfaces with form and all kinds of pattern, visual texture, lots of little boots and diddles and lines and
Is this an early piece?
macrame. This is the first wire piece. Macrame wire. And it's, of course, brass. That's what happened to be in my bench. And you can, I'll pass any of these around, you can feel how stiff it is. So here I was trying to pull all these wires real tight with my fingers, and even though I did play guitar, there weren't enough calluses. And I was getting sort of blisters. And I thought, well, shoot, I know, because I'm a metalsmith, that fine silver is even softer than sterling silver. So I marched right past sterling and got some fine silver wire, and I've been working with fine silver now ever since. But my teacher down there, Brent Kington, he said, you seem sort of like that. And I really did. I just took off on this wire work. I thought, here I am not putting my texture onto my form, an embellishment. I am building my form out of my texture. That's sort of a neat thing to do. I am working from one end of the piece to the other, and I'm watching this thing grow and be completed as I transverse. Now this is really the whole approach to a piece that a textiles person would have, versus a metalsmith who, one course of work, erase those steps with another course of work, and over. So that the process, the whole light reflective off the surface, everything just suddenly matched in with what I had been looking for. And so I wanted to run with it. And so he said, okay, let's say you do 2 pair of earrings every Monday before you are allowed to work on any other project. And so for the rest of the year I did that from about Thanksgiving through June. I had a lot of earrings done, which incidentally helped me put through college because I could sell them. But it also really took me through the thinking process of how to work with the wire, because once each week I was set with a problem of coming up with 2 designs. They naturally looked very similar. Then I could sleep on it. I could put them away. I could do the raised piece or the forged piece, whatever I was interested in. Coming back Monday to 2 other designs. Usually Sunday night it was suddenly the sobering thought that Monday morning was coming and I had to think of 2 new designs. But as the weeks progressed, I really pushed through into this idea of wire work, sitting there in southern Illinois, nowhere near museums. I have since found out that most of what I discovered in the cornfields of Illinois had been done all over the world. But most of it is a very natural thing to come about if one has a whole pile of wire and wants to do things with it. So what I thought I'd do today is just sort of take you through, more or less chronologically, how I got into working with the wire, which will then explain, maybe when you see wire work that uses my same process is done, it'll break down into categories and make a little more sense than seeing all this stuff go on at once. I might say that after I left school, I did a lot of traveling, and as a metalsmith, my whole studio fit in this. I lived in China for 2 years. I could put this in my suitcase and actually got it through customs because they didn't notice it. That's pretty nice for your entire studio, in those days, including my torch and metal, put right in a little tackle box. Blow out my stuff and then start twisting some lines. Pardon?
What gauge do you usually work with?
Okay, for a long time I was working with 20 and 26. Then I got down to, 28, 20, and 14. The 14 and the 20 being sterling. Now I'm getting further and further apart, so I'm working up to 10 gauge sterling and down to 30 gauge fine. But that'll make more sense. Sometimes I do if I don't have the gauge I want, and I'll show you the draw plates I use. I use draw dies, carbide dies. But basically, I'm on a campaign. We have whole books written about casting. other whole books written about sheet fabrication. We actually, as metalsmiths, buy our wire or buy our metal in 3 forms: sheet, shot, or wire. And the books usually have 3 whole pages devoted to wire work. And I've devoted 16 years now to it. And I have to keep myself on one path because I see so many other interesting things. I say, no, Mary, this is the most interesting for today. You know, it really is endless. Okay, so doctor laying out the implements before the operation. All right, now, okay, now, what I started out doing, I didn't bring all my books. Didn't bring all my books with me today because the suitcase was heavy. But those of you who are metalsmiths may be familiar with Herbert and Marion's Metalwork and Enameling. It's a very fine, basic text written in the 40s. And in the very center of that book, it's been republished by Dover, so it is available for about $5. And right in the center is about 5 pages with photographs of twisted and wrapped wire. And he tells you how to do it. So I went through that, and I made about 1 foot of each one. And then I started experimenting, making other ones. Everything I could think to do with this wire. I rolled some through the rolling mill, I squashed some flat, I took square ones and wrapped around round ones and did whatever I could, wrapping some loose, twisting some real tightly. This is all that's left. I lose them. But this is the little wire bouquet. But some of those linear textures are really intriguing. And I was then making a lot of earrings, just taking a neat texture and looping it around. That got me through a lot of Mondays. But started into the colored wire, and I just was twisting several around each other. If you're going to twist a length, a short bit of wire, you might just go like this. A long bit, you don't want to sit there. And very soon I found out that if you put a hook in the end of your hand drill, put one end in the vise, okay, that'll twist it for you quite quickly and easily. And pull on it a little bit so that you keep it from getting all knotted around itself, but just very quickly you can twist up a length of wire. If you're going to make a bracelet sort of like the one I have on here, which I did not make, East Indian souvenir thing, but okay, this is made out of 6 pieces of round wire. What you would do to go about some of these more complex constructions of wire, you take the 2 very thickest ones, the iron and the brass in this case. I would probably put those 2 in a vise, pull them out so that they were 90 degrees from each other, and then start twisting them around by hand. Because these are real strong and heavy. You've got to do that by hand. If you take your 2, pull them straight out parallel and start twisting, you're only going to get around about once, and then it's going to be too tight. So if you want it, the tighter you want your twist on these things, pull them out at 45, 90 degrees from each other and then twist that way. Okay, the little ones can just be twisted on a drill separately. And then those are just laid in the cracks formed between the big ones. So you're, in many cases, preparing elements and then combining for these experiments. But a lot of neat things can be done just to make a textured linear element this way. Okay, so I played with all of that, and I ran through that. Started wrapping one wire around another. As some of the drawings show, if you wrap one wire around another and then wrap that around a thicker one, I did that for a long time, and I give it the classy name of wrapped wire, gives a nice, rich textural quality. If you take the thick wires and wrap a very thin one over it, it gets molded around those thick ones, and you'll see a shadow of the form of the thick ones through. That's a very attractive thing. Now that I go running around the countryside, going to museums and all, I keep looking around for historical precedents. And in the armory section, sword handles are wonderful examples of wire work, done with beautiful textures, just in handle parts, and giving a good grip. I guess is the reason as well as beauty. But all of these wrapped and twisted wire examples pretty much are there on the sword handles. If you don't really want to wrap one wire around another, there is a commercially available textured wire called beaded wire. It's a solid piece that's been squashed down like a length of sausages. But if you look closely, it just doesn't look the same as the wrapping. So I still prefer the wrapping. Okay, so a few tricks in doing. You want to see me do something like that, I suppose. I'm trying to shorten this down to get it to 2 hours. Dead air, I know that's not good when you're on camera. Okay, if I'm going to wrap all of that around all of that kind of thing, yards and yards of it, I still start a bit from the end with a tail and wrap toward one end. Okay, when you have a 1/4 inch or so of it. Problem with this magnet wire, plastic coated, it's real slick and it'll just slide. So if you've got yourself this little wrapped tail already, and you give yourself a half bend in it, tighten up that thing. It shouldn't slide around. Anyway, let me just do that. And then I can go. Always wrap around an end. And you get so you can get a little faster, with practice. Okay, I work against a black bench. But my bench at home is black. Especially when I'm working with silver wire, it eases my eyes an awful lot. Okay, work over an end. A lot of times I see people starting to do it and they'll go like this and then have to drop and pick up and pull it over. Okay, always work over an end. Speed yourself up. It's labor intensive at best. And what we're trying to do is get a little quicker with each movement. If you want them tight together, bring this out at right angles. If you want it to slant, then you're going to bring it out. And you get it slanted. If you make a mistake and it's slanted and you want it tight and you want to shove it up, it takes more material to go like this than it does like that. You shove it up and it's going to be loose, floppy. And to my mind, the only problem with wire work is when it's not controlled. I really like an extreme tight control on the stuff. Once it gets loose and spidery looking, to me it really is dreadful. So it doesn't matter what you do, but if you do it the same all the way around, then it falls into a pattern and it looks purposeful. Okay, now, at one point, I did a lot of what I called tentacles, for a better name. And so as soon as I discovered this little form, of course I made some earrings out of it, whatever, nice little forms. And then I immediately had to go and make octopus and a squid, a few other things. But I'll show you how I do those, and that then later will be a good thing to try out the torch with. Okay, I start with as many wires, the full length of the tentacle, as I want little balls sticking out along the length, plus one longer wire to do the wrapping with. Okay, this is all fine silver. And you can feel the tentacles that are going around. And bend them, and you can feel just how soft that is for those of you who've never worked with it. It's got its problems. You don't want to use it in stress situations, but for situations where you want to pack things real tightly, and it doesn't take a lot of stress. It's beautiful stuff. No fire scale. Great. Okay, what I do is just flip out one of those wires and wrap around the rest. Flip on another one.
You count revolutions?
Yes, you notice I stopped talking. Huh?
Yes.
Talk and count at the same time.
This is 24 gauge? 22.
This is 26. The other spool I have is 28. Whenever I give workshops, I put it, the list of tools comes down through pliers, crochet hook, deck of cards, you know, all these things people wonder what we're going to do. Ends up with good eyesight, long fingernails, and lots of patience. Basically, that's what it takes. If I had to stop and pick up a pair of pliers every time I wanted to flip up a little wire, it would really take me a lot longer.
That's where long fingernails go.
They're long for a good reason. Okay, now, what I did was start flipping out one at a time the interior wires, and naturally I ran out of them, which gives me this nice even taper to the wrapped element. Now I'm going to melt these back down with an oxyacetylene torch to make the little balls. The size of the ball is going to be determined by how much material goes into it to make it up. So if I want them all the same size, I've got to cut these off at the same length. I want short, I think smaller ones at the end. So I'm not sure. Okay. Now that's ready.